Since the dawn of time, humanity has stood at the crossroads of curiosity and caution. The stars whispered secrets, and the oceans roared with unanswered questions. It was in this place, sin of existential yearning, that the human spirit took its first steps into the unknown. The path was never illuminated, but something within urged us to explore. Mythology has always served as both guide and mirror to this journey, reflecting our fears, desires, and ultimate quest for meaning. The descent into the underworld is not merely a mythological trope. It is a metaphor for self-discovery, for confronting the hidden recesses of the soul. Every culture has its own story of such a descent. The Greeks spoke of Orpheus, the Mesopotamians of Inanna, and the Egyptians of Osiris. Each tale is different, yet fundamentally the same, symbolizing a journey inward, where darkness becomes the crucible for transformation. In Greek mythology, Icarus dared to fly with wings crafted from feathers and wax. Warned not to fly too high nor too low, he became intoxicated by freedom, ascending ever closer to the blazing sun. The wax melted, the wings failed, and Icarus plummeted into the sea. To many, his story is one of hubris and downfall. But to others, it is a tragic celebration of ambition, of choosing to touch the divine, even at the cost of destruction. What if Icarus knew he would fall, and still chose to fly? Perhaps the fall wasn't a punishment, but a rite of passage, a symbol of the bold soul willing to risk everything for even a fleeting glimpse of transcendence. The sun, radiant and merciless, doesn't discriminate. It simply is. And those who dare to approach it are changed, whether by fire or by awakening. Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and gifted it to humanity, is another figure enshrouded in both rebellion and sacrifice. For his crime, he was chained to a rock where an eagle devoured his liver each day, only for it to regenerate each night. Yet, in this eternal punishment, lies an eternal truth. Knowledge is a double-edged flame. It can illuminate, but it can also consume. Prometheus represents the audacity of enlightenment, the willingness to suffer for the elevation of others. His torment is not just divine retribution. It is the cost of bearing truth in a world that often prefers shadows. He is the torchbearer, not only of fire but of consciousness, awakening humanity to its own potential and to its own peril. Humanity exists in a liminal space, between the animal and the divine, between instinct and intellect. We are the species that builds cathedrals and commits atrocities, that contemplates the cosmos and succumbs to base desires. This paradox is our burden and our beauty. We are not meant to be perfect, we are meant to strive. In striving, we stumble. In reaching, we fall. But in that very act of reaching lies the essence of what it means to be human. It is not the achievement that defines us, but the pursuit. We dream not because we are certain of success, but because to dream is to live beyond mere survival. No great transformation occurs without pain. The soul, like ore, must pass through fire to emerge refined. This is the essence of the descent, the journey through hardship that leads to rebirth. Like the phoenix rising from ashes, or the initiate emerging from the rites of passage, we too must descend if we are to ascend. The underworld is not a place of punishment, but of preparation. It is where the ego dissolves, where illusions die, and where the true self begins to take shape. Each trial, each wound, is a chisel against the stone of our spirit, carving us into who we are meant to become. To embrace suffering is not to seek it, but to accept its necessity. It is through pain that we gain empathy, through loss that we understand value, through death that we come to cherish life. The alchemist turns lead into gold, but only through fire and time. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey where the divine seems to fall silent. The prayers echo unanswered, the signs vanish, and the soul feels abandoned. This silence is not neglect, it is initiation. It is in this void that we must find our own voice, our own faith. The silence of the gods is a space in which we are invited to become co-creators of our destiny. It is the crucible of autonomy, where belief matures into knowing. Just as the seed must crack open in the darkness to sprout, so too must we break to grow. In that silence, we begin to understand that divinity is not something we reach, it is something we reveal within. The gods speak in whispers, in symbols, in stillness. And when we stop demanding answers, we begin to hear them. No descent is complete without return. The hero must come back, not for their own glory, but to share the light they have found. This is the final test. To re-enter the world not as a conqueror, but as a servant of truth. Like Moses descending from the mountain, like Buddha beneath the tree, like Christ from the tomb. The return is an act of love. To carry wisdom is to bear a responsibility. The world does not always welcome those who have seen beyond the veil. And yet, they return. Again and again. Because transformation is not a solitary act. It is a ripple meant to spread. We are all called to this cycle: descent, transformation, return. In our own ways, in our own lives. And perhaps, just perhaps, in telling these stories, in living them, we become something more than we were.